Frankly, at first, I didn't know what to title this video. Stone Ocean seems to be the quote-unquote black sheep of the entire Jojo series, but I feel like at the same time, there are just many out there that really enjoy Part 6 for what it is, especially with the high demand of an anime adaptation in recent years. At best, public reception seems to be I suppose an overall mixed bag. In this case, perhaps I'm in the minority when stating this that I really had a good time reading Stone Ocean. Personally, it's probably my second or maybe third favorite entry within the entire series, because nothing can beat Steel Ball Run. And since perhaps I am a tad bit biased also, Part 6 was the first manga I ever read. Yeah, I know that may sound somewhat surprising to some people. And of course, I watched the anime beforehand, but in this case, I obviously didn't have a choice in the matter. And sadly, yes, the transition was very awkward. I had to go on WikiHow because at first I was reading left to right, and on top of that, the website I used, the page order was completely backwards. So to describe what I mean, okay, imagine a VHS tape, right? And the film is at the end. So you basically rewind it to the beginning. So in a sort of sense, you're reading everything in reverse, and it's just so confusing. And aside from that, perhaps some of you may be like, how dare this man pirate manga, this evil individual? But in rebuttal, fan translations are the only way to read Part 6 in English. It has never been officially localized, except obviously in Japanese and I think in French, if I'm not mistaken. That's just kind of random. I mean, why French? But anyway, yeah, so if you want to read it and you only read English, that's your only choice. You gotta go to the fan translations. I mean, that's just silly. I know I'm getting a little bit off track, but like, don't they want money, right? Like, because I think Viz does like a lot of the publications for the English market, so do you not want free money, guys? I know it takes some work to translate that, but if a bunch of fans can do it, I don't see any reason why they can't do it either. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track. I have to admit, this is probably one of my favorite beginnings within the entirety of Jojo. It's just some really solid stuff. It establishes the plot quickly, it explains everything neatly. I like how the first page is this. I mean, there's just so many questions that pop up in your head. Who's this hot chick? Why is there a dead guy on the side of the road? Is he actually dead? If so, how come he's in a bush? To hide the evidence of a murder, perhaps? And oh yeah, by the way, that hot chick who seems responsible is actually our main protagonist. Well, I'll be damned. If you kids thought Jotaro was a far cry from the goody two-shoes Jonathan Joestar who's just perfect in every way, then there you go. Nevertheless, we're thrown into the prison setting immediately. The reader doesn't necessarily understand why she's in prison. We only have that one page to go off of, but that's really enough motivation to keep reading onward, to find out why a Joestar is being thrown in such a terrible situation. And from there, it's just a complete acid trip. That's really the best way to describe it. And look, don't get me wrong here. This is very much a typical JoJo story through and throughout. Stand battles and all, of course, but I don't know necessarily what Araki was thinking while he was writing this. Some of these stands are just completely insane. Examples include Bohemian Rhapsody, Underworld, Jailhouse Lock, Weather Report, and there's also this guy that has a stand that summons meteors to come showering down and crashing on the user. And then this guy, I actually don't know what his stand does, but the important thing is he's the Grand Wizard or whatever, Grand Dragon of basically the equivalent of the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah. In Stone Ocean, I can definitely tell Araki took, let's just say, interesting risks. I mean, having the majority of the cast be female was probably a rather odd choice for the time being, and having a stationary setting too, actually that's quite a common complaint I tend to hear online. While I do prefer the road trip styles of Stardust Crusaders and Steel Ball Run, I don't necessarily mind this change. The prison itself is already an interesting location, and within it there's a lot of unique areas and situations for our characters to explore. And speaking about the characters, they were just all great. Though if I had to say my least favorite character, it probably would have been Hermes. She's not terrible, I just didn't really connect with her compared to the rest of the crew. Her stand though is actually very cool. Like at first I thought it was going to be like a joke, like okay, how can this be at all viable in like a combat sort of situation? But no, it actually is somewhat powerful. Like if you use it creatively, oh yeah, this thing can definitely be useful. And then we have our main protagonist, Jolene. I really enjoyed her. She kind of has that Joseph Joestar vibe to her, that silliness, but at the same time she takes a lot of traits from her father. Jolene definitely evolves a lot throughout the events of Stone Ocean. I mean, beforehand she had no idea what a stand was, and now she's thrown in a prison setting. There's just a lot of critical moments there where she's like, damn, like shit is real. I gotta get my crap together. The stakes are high. I need to push through and be strong. Like, I know that sounds kind of generic on face value, but when you see those scenes go down, it's very engaging. I mean, like, think about it. Before, in the beginning, she's like crying in a prison cell, whining, banging her head against the wall. I mean, yeah, it's funny. It definitely gives me a lot of Joseph Joestar vibes. But then think about like later in the story. Damn. Now she's more like Jotaro. She's taking on Poochie. She's doing all this crazy stuff. She sets herself on fire. She's proving herself to be an awesome character. This factor is even expressed within her character design. Earlier on within Stone Ocean, she has a very skinny and delicate look to her. But later on though, Araki definitely, I feel like this was definitely intentional, he drew in a lot of muscles onto her. Her deltoids are a lot more developed, her biceps are a lot more developed, her overall physique has improved. All these results are through the byproduct of being in prison for such a long time. I don't know, I just really like Jolene as a character. I mean, she's not my favorite Joestar, but I think this is the way you do a female protagonist, and I would love Araki to give it another shot, perhaps in part 9, if that is ever gonna happen. Also, just a side note here, I really enjoy the fact that Jolene plays sort of a bit of a mother figure towards Emporio. And speaking on Emporio's behalf, yeah, he's a pretty cool character. He kind of reminds me of Koichi a bit, and I just find it hilarious how he's able to drive a car, and then they top that joke, and then they make him drive a helicopter. Overall, just very hilarious stuff. Next up, Anasu or Anasui. Some people really hate the way I pronounce his name. I say Anasu. I don't know. Actually, I want to hear in the comments how you guys pronounce it. I'm very curious. At first, I really didn't like him. He kind of gave me Mr. Steal Your Girl kind of vibes, and yeah, I get it. Jolene is very attractive, don't get me wrong here, but that doesn't give you the right to be a jerk about it. Later down the line though, it becomes a lot more tolerable, and you really do get to like him as you read along the story. His stand is awesome. A lot of people always point that out to me. They really enjoy Divers Down, and I would agree, definitely. His design is really cool, its ability is really simple, but could be used in a lot of creative ways, and him and Weather Report make a really cool dynamic duo team later into the story. Oh boy, and speaking of Weather, and yes, I purposely saved him for last, just wow. Like, I really enjoyed this character, and maybe not at first right away. Like, he's sort of monotone, you know, like he doesn't talk as much in the beginning, but when the spotlight shines on him, get the fucking popcorn and start eating while you're reading, dude. It's that good. His stand though is probably, in my opinion, one of the best in the entire series. It's within my top 5. It just has so much potential. It's so open-ended. If you had enough creativity, you could definitely break this stand. You can make this stand unstoppable. And that's what I really love. It's simple, yeah, I guess you could control weather, but if you're creative with it, like many times in the story, Araki got really creative in how this stand is used, you can get some really interesting effects. Simple, but very deadly, and it's amazing whenever it's on screen. It could just be used in so many ways. It's awesome. Like, God, if I could have a stand in real life, Weather Report is definitely up there. I also really enjoy Weather's backstory. It's very engaging, and I like how it is able to connect with the main plot. By the way, I forgot about Foo Fighters, my mistake. My real question though is, why isn't she in Eyes of Heaven? As you can see throughout this video, I tried to keep spoilers to a minimum, and I did this for a few reasons. One, I'm kind of just like that. I mean, of course, I'm going to talk about something that happens in the story if it has to pertain to the video topic at hand. For instance, I would love to talk about the ending of part 6 because it's probably one of my favorite. I mean, I guess it's not my favorite ending, but it's definitely the most. It's an ending that I have a lot to say, and it really makes you think. That's why it's one of my favorite. But obviously, I wouldn't want to talk about that in this video because my goal for this video is to try to convince people to give part 6 a shot, because I, obviously, from what you guys can tell, I really enjoy it. I want to spread the word on how good it is. And let's be frank with ourselves, the part 6 anime is not going to come out anytime soon, unfortunately. So a lot of people are going to just, okay, let me go read the manga. So I want to prepare for you guys what to expect, etc. And also, there's a lot of people that may just want to skip Stone Ocean. I see a fair amount of comments like these that express their thoughts and feelings on part 6 and whether or not they want to skip it or not. So, and I actually saw one very recently, and it struck me very hard. I know that sounds kind of strange, but I try to put myself in their shoes, and I suppose my mentality before Stone Ocean, because obviously beforehand I didn't know what the story was, right? And the reception that I got, the vibe I got about the story when I asked around, it was overall just very negative. Like, it was kind of one of those things that, like, no, we don't talk about Stone Ocean, you know? It's like Shrek 3. We don't talk about Shrek 3. Nevertheless, my point is, like a lot of these individuals that are questioning whether to skip part 6 or not, I was in a similar boat to where I necessarily didn't have high hopes for Stone Ocean. But obviously, rest assured, I can definitely guarantee, at least in my opinion, it definitely is worth a read. Like, I don't know, I just really messed with the story. That's the best way I could describe it. It is the Evangelion, actually I never watched Evangelion, but it is the Evangelion of Jojo. It is just absolutely insane. It gives me goosebumps talking about it with people. There are two things I like to talk about in JoJo: Stone Ocean and Steel Ball Run. Those are my two favorite parts to talk about, and I think that's for a reason. I don't know. With part 6, for example, it's just this really cool hidden gem. Okay, not as much anymore, but like, I don't know, I just really mess with it. There's not too much backing behind it. It's just so fucking it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. Like, I'm not lying to you guys. Like, it's crazy. Throughout the part, you will be like, what the fuck, am I reading JoJo? Like, what is going on? Like, I'm not gonna say much on the ending, but 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm at my kitchen table, I'm reading JoJo. This is the grand fucking finale, because obviously Steel Ball, I knew at the time Steel Ball Run was, it was a, you know, it was a reboot. So I'm reading the ending, and I'm just left with my mouth wide open. I'm like, what did I just read here? This is it? Like, this is it. Wow, like, you fucking bow down to Araki. Like, what a legendary writer, dude. My god. Like, you just sit there and pause for a bit. You have to mentally inhale everything you just saw and read. It is truly an experience. You will never look back at part 6 within the same light. It is simply just amazing. And then obviously at first I was kind of scarred. I really didn't like the ending. I was like, this is not for me. I'm so confused. I immediately, of course, is later in the night, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm on my phone. I'm desperately looking up analysis videos, explained videos on the ending. I'm like, I need answers, but I don't know. I've never been that frantic about an ending before. I don't know. It always really stuck with me. Even to this day. I always remember 3 o'clock in the morning, sitting in my kitchen. It's fucking, like, it's freaking Vietnam flashbacks over here, man. It's PTSD, like, damn, you know, but that's why I always mess with it. And, like, no other JoJo ending gave me that vibe, you know? It never gave me that experience, that surprise, that anticipation. I've never been so glued to, like, a manga panel in my entire life from then. I needed to know what was happening. This isn't enough to get you to read. I don't know what is. Part 6, Stone Ocean, is the Majora's Mask of JoJo. And you could say Ocarina of Time is the Stardust Crusaders. You just gotta experience it, man. And if you don't get it at first, I understand. But the stand battles are crazy. Araki really, like, he's stretching the extent of what JoJo can be. Like, the page is about to rip. He's stretching it out like rubber. These stands are insane, the story's insane, the ending's insane, some of these characters are insane. Like, it's absolutely amazing, and I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point. And obviously I'm going off script at this point too. Nevertheless, this is probably the most passionate I've ever gotten in a video, I'd say. Okay, maybe the 4Kids One Piece, I got pretty loud, but usually I don't like to go off script that much because I feel like I just have a mental roadblock whenever I talk, when I do just free verse or whatever. But I just really had a lot to say. This may be one of my longest JoJo videos I've ever made. We're going on currently, as I'm recording this right now, about 16 minutes. If I could do a video about me just rambling on about part 6 for 16 minutes, it's good, alright? I'm gonna end it here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I 100% appreciate that. If you read Stone Ocean, good on you. If you didn't like it, hey, we all got opinions. If you haven't read it, go read it. If you want to skip it, I'd advise not to, though it's your life. I can't do anything about that. Either way, thank you so much again, and have a terrific day.